Don't. Don't. This happened in Ukraine. I was attacked by an Azerbaijani barber. He kept me in the barber chair for almost an hour, and this is the result. I looked like Richard Spencer's uncle or something. Don't say a fucking thing. Oh boy. Yeah, I know. It happened to me when I was in Ukraine, and it's amusing. It's no big deal. It's just hair. It'll grow out. Frankly, if I could get away with it, I'd just shave it all off. But the women in my life are very negative on that particular issue. I want to talk to you about something that's important, that right now you're a young guy and you don't even think about it, but it'll be an important thing later as you grow into the man that you will become. And it's the issue of delegating. Now, see, okay, you get up in the morning, right? You get up in the morning and, you know, your room's a mess, and you go to your high school class or your college class or your job or whatever, and you have a whole bunch of things that are going on in your life. But, you know, cleaning up your room is low on the priority list, if you will, because, you know, you've got other things to do. So your room looks like a mess. You don't make your bed. You have like a big mountain of clothes. You have, if you live on your own or in a dorm or something, you have like maybe a pile of dirty dishes, and, you know, your refrigerator's got food from God knows when, and probably used condoms and God knows what else. You know, I mean, it's fairly disgusting, yeah? You don't clean it because you don't have the time, and you got to do other shit, right? So you go through your life and you do these other things that are more important. You know, you study, you do your job, whatever, right? You would clean your room if you had the time, or if you had somebody who could do it for you, right? That's delegating. That's getting somebody else to do something that you do not have the time to do. You don't have the time, and perhaps you don't have the skill set to do it, and perhaps you don't have the inclination to do it. Okay? Delegating, getting somebody else to do something for you, is an incredibly important skill that you should begin to master as soon as possible. You should not be the one who is delegated to do other stuff for other people, unless you're getting paid for it, of course. I mean, if somebody asks you, oh, please do this, you better say, well, how much are you going to pay me? If they're not going to pay you, don't do it, okay? Because in life, there are people who are the delegators, and there are the delegatees. The delegatees never amount to anything unless they're getting paid, and getting paid well, okay? I mean, that's rule number one. Now, insofar as delegating stuff, it's very important. It's an incredibly important skill that you have to master, and I would suggest you try it out with your girlfriend. Yeah, you know, just ask her to do stuff for you, to clean up your room, to tidy it up, to clean all the dishes because you don't have the time, and whatever, you know. Sweet talk her, and you'll find something interesting. Most women want to do something for their man, and in point of fact, most people want to be useful to other people. Okay? It's bastards like you and me who are lazy bums who don't want to work at all, and we get other people to do our work for us. That's the whole point of delegating, you see? Yeah, I know. I'm an awful person, and, you know, I'll probably go to hell, but since I don't believe in God or the devil or hell, and since I figure that this is the only life, you know, why am I going to do shit if I can get somebody else to do it for me? Right? That's delegating. Now, there are a lot of problems with delegating, and a lot of, you know, issues that come up with it. And I'm going to discuss them briefly in this little vlog. But the thing that you have to understand is that, see, you have to understand why you are delegating something. Because you don't have the time, you don't have the inclination, or you don't have the skill set. Those are the three reasons. Now, you see, when you get somebody to clean up your room, as it were, to, you know, do all your laundry and clean all the dirty dishes and clean out that disgusting refrigerator that you have, right? See, you don't have the time to do it, and so they're going to do it in the way that they want to, unless you give them very specific directions. Now, for something like cleaning up a room, you might give them just general directions, or maybe your shirts, and you say, you know, not too much starch when you take it to the dry cleaners. There's delegating for you. But you see, at the end of the day, you don't really care how it gets done so long as it gets done. Okay, now this is trivial, but as you grow up in the hierarchy of your life, you're going to discover that you need things done in a very particular way. And this is important. Okay? Because you see, you're going to have particular tasks that need to be done with a certain amount of skill. Cleaning a room, that's easy. Anybody can do it. Anybody with 80 IQ points can get away with cleaning a room. It's not that big of a deal. But for instance, writing a letter. There's this great quote, it's not a quote, it's a statement that Dwight Eisenhower said. That he said that the hardest thing for him was learning to sign a badly written letter. You see, Dwight Eisenhower, when he was an officer and then a general and then Supreme Allied Commander and then President of the United States, he had a lot of things that he had to do, so he didn't have the time to do them all himself, so he would delegate them. And what happened? Somebody would delegate, he would delegate, you know, the writing of a specific letter. The letter would be written by somebody else. It would come to his desk and he'd have to sign it to send it off to whomever. And he'd read the letter and realize it's a badly written letter, but he doesn't have the time to rewrite it himself. You see? And so that's one of the hardest things that you're going to discover. That delegating something and allowing them or just accepting the fact that they're not going to do it exactly as you want it to be done. Okay? Especially in the more creative and more complicated issues. See, people are going to wind up doing the things that you delegate to them the way that they want them to be done. Not quite the way you would like them to be done. They're going to write the letter in a way that you wouldn't have written. Not as well written, perhaps, a little sloppy, I mean, who knows, but you see my point. Now, when you delegate something, you have to understand what you are trying to accomplish. If you're trying to avoid it because you don't have the interest in doing it, whether you simply don't have the time to do it, or whether you simply don't have the talent for it. Now, the third one is tricky. You see, when you delegate something that you do not have the talent to do yourself, all right, let's assume that you have the ability to judge whether it's done properly or not. You have to be careful how you give the task to the person you're delegating it to. Don't worry about the process. Worry about what results are important and articulate them clearly to the person before they begin the task. For example, say you buy a Prius and it's not running, right? You buy it, you know, for $1,000, say, and you take it to the mechanic. And you tell the mechanic, I want this car fixed, but you have to be specific how you want it fixed, because you have to understand why you want it fixed. Let's say, for the sake of this hypothetical, that this Prius that you bought that isn't running, but you know, with a little bit of money and a little TLC is going to be running fine, you bought it for your daughter who just got her learner's permit. So you take it to the mechanic. Now, the mechanic can fix it, sure he can, but how well do you want it fixed? You see what I mean? Now, here's a problem. When you hire somebody or delegate something to somebody who's very talented, sometimes they will give you something that satisfies them but does not satisfy your needs. And you have to be very careful with this. That's why it's actually not that smart to go with the best people. Sometimes it's better to go with the not so good people, the mediocre people. And I'll explain why with this hypothetical. You take it to the mechanic, and this mechanic is like a genius, a mechanical genius, right? And he takes this Prius and he says, okay, it'll cost $1,000 to fix it, and I'll fix it spick and span. Done. Let's do it. So you pay him $1,000, he goes away, fixes the Prius, and comes back to you with this Prius. And he has a big fat smile on his face because he's proud of his achievement. And he tells you, look, this Prius can now go, what, 60 miles an hour? Screw that. It can go 250 miles an hour. And it can go from 0 to 60 in minus 3 seconds. You know, it goes back in time. That's how fast the fucking thing goes, right? And you're like, oh shit, what did this fucker do? Because see, you wanted a car for your daughter, your 16-year-old daughter who just got her learner's permit. You don't want a fucking Ferrari dressed up as a Prius, right? You see, that's the problem with hiring very, very talented people. Sometimes their talent and enthusiasm gets away from you, and they wind up delivering something which is fantastic on its face, but does not satisfy your needs. So you have to be careful, especially with smart people. Not so smart people, paradoxically, they'll do exactly what you want them to do. They'll do something much more machine-like. They will be much more of an extension of you. So that's why, paradoxically, when you have something very crucial that has to get done that you do not have the time or the interest or the inclination or the skill set to do, you don't want to hire the best people, the smartest people. You want to hire the very capable people. A little bit mediocre, perhaps. But they'll do it exactly as you want it to be done. You see? Now, that seems that you should always surround yourself with the best people. Yes, of course, you should always surround yourself with the best people who are advising you. You see? There's a difference between people who carry out tasks for you and people who advise you. When you have people who are advising you, you want the smartest people in the room. See, for instance, in my own case, I have a couple of lawyers. They are a lot smarter than me. They are fucking geniuses, right? These guys have saved me from more trouble than I can shake a stick at, right? They are terrific people, much, much smarter than me. I presented them problems, and they've said, yes, that's the problem as you have identified, but there are these other issues, and there are these other solutions. And I'm like, yay, it's like having like an auxiliary brain, right? And I feel great because they present me options that I had never even considered before, never even knew existed, and I'm better off for it. But of course, just to keep in mind, with your advisors, you never hand them power of attorney. You are the one who signs, but that's for another conversation. Now see, an advisor like that, a lawyer, an accountant, or a doctor, or whomever, he has a set of expertise, or he has a brain power that you do not have. And you're basically plugging in that brain power into your head, right? And accessing that information, those options, those possibilities. But when you need a task carried out, having the smartest people is not necessarily the best option. Many times when you need somebody to carry out a specific task, you need somebody a little bit mediocre, and you tell them exactly what you want. For instance, in the case of the hypothetical mechanic, you should go to him and say, I don't want this car to go any faster than 50 miles an hour. And I don't want it to accelerate, any faster from 0 to 50 in, a minute and a half. I want a slowpoke car that's durable, that's not going to break down, that you just need to plug in gas and it's fine. That's what I want from the car because it's for my daughter. You don't necessarily have to tell the reason, but often it's good to explain why, if it's possible. Sometimes you have to keep your cards close to your vest and not tell. But in this case, in this hypothetical, it would be smart because then it gives the mechanic the understanding as to why they're doing something. A lot of times when you need somebody to do something and you can't tell them, it's wise to tell them, I can't tell you why I want this just so, but believe me, I need it to be just so because of reasons that will become clear later. And I will tell you later and I will show you later, but I need it to be done in this specific way. That's perfectly reasonable to tell somebody something like that, okay? Look at my haircut, okay? My haircut with my Azerbaijan barber. See, what happened was, I didn't have a clear sense of what I wanted. I sort of told him, I want it shorter and I don't want it to part on the side because I always do, and I just want it shorter, but I don't really know. And so he started cutting. And he came up with one version, and I didn't care for it that much. So he said, well, I'll have to cut it a little bit more. And I'm like, yeah, fine. And he cut it some more and some more. I think we did like 3 passes, right? Now see, hair is trivial. It doesn't matter. He went through one hairstyle, I didn't particularly care for it. He did another, and then finally this, and by the end of it, I realized the only thing he could cut is just shave it all off, and that'd be that. So I said, okay, fine, leave it at that. Because I actually like the second version, but spilt milk, water on the bridge. My point is, see, when you don't know what you want from the person that you are delegating some task to, they're going to fuck it up. They're going to fuck it up. It's inevitable. Okay? No matter how clever they are, or stupid they are, or whatever their ability, if you don't know what you want specifically, and what specific interests you have in mind when you delegate some task to, they're not going to be able to perform at the level that you need them to perform. Okay, so the most important thing that you have to do is have a clear sense of what you want, how you want something done, what are your priorities, and tell the person. Okay, and then the final thing, which is very difficult, it's certainly difficult for people like me. I tend to be a micromanager. I tend to be a micromanager, and I tend to be very detail-oriented, which is a horrible thing. I'm basically Jimmy Carter, except in the political. Jimmy Carter famously in his presidency micromanaged every fucking thing. I mean, even to the fucking stationery, okay? Which is a horrible mistake. And of course, Ronald Reagan, one of his great virtues was that he did not micromanage anything. He just gave broad strokes and go. And that was great. That was perfect. Because when you're running a large organization, micromanaging is catastrophic for the leader, you. Because you're going to be a leader of an organization someday. You're going to be having 20 people answering to you, each of them delegated with different tasks. You want to give them broad strokes, especially when they're smart. Okay, you want to just, the ship is going in that general direction. Every little thing of the ship, it doesn't really matter. Okay, now that would sound as if I'm contradicting what I said before of not hiring the top people. No. When you want something very specific done, you don't want to go with the very top, very creative people, because when you go with those very creative people, they're going to give you something that you might not be able to work with. For instance, with the car example. But for instance, imagine you are setting up a business and you want to get into the, the solar energy business, and you have like regular energy business, with coal, but you say, okay, we're going to do a solar division, so let's get somebody really creative to lead it, and they run with it. That's when you get the smart person. When they're going to do some task that is not directly interconnected with the rest of the activities that you're doing, but you need it done. That's when you hire somebody really creative, really smart, and you just give them free rein. Just go, just go do it, figure it out. And they will. They'll come up with a brilliant solution. You never hire stupid people when you're going to give somebody a lot of free rein because you don't have the time or the interest or the information, the knowledge of that particular task. That's when you hire somebody really smart and you just tell them to run with it and let them run. And you periodically check up on them to say more if they're going in the more or less the right direction that you want them to go into, right? But those people you give free rein. The things that are very interconnected and very important to your rice bowl, okay, and the continuing fulfillment of your rice bowl. Well, those people you watch carefully, and you don't want them to be that smart. You want them to be more extensions of yourself. You see? Now, delegating is very important, and it is a very good way to earn the loyalty of people. Because you see, when you delegate something, for instance, the Prius example, and your daughter who's just got her driver's permit, you go up to that mechanic and you tell him, look, I need this car to be really safe because it's my daughter, my only daughter. She just got her learner's permit, and this is important to me. What do you think his reaction is going to be? How do you think he's going to work? He's going to give it a little bit more interest because he's involved, you see? And so that's why it's very important when you delegate to give a sense of the importance of what you are delegating to them. For instance, your apartment is a big old mess, but the Queen of England is stopping by tomorrow afternoon for tea. So you tell your girlfriend, I need you to clean this, because the Queen is coming, and it's a big deal because if I give a good impression, she's going to knight me, and I'm going to be Sir John. So please, can you do this for me? You don't know how much I'd appreciate it. She is going to practically, spit polish the whole apartment, okay? Because she recognizes it's important for you, and not just your girlfriend, it's anybody you work with, whether you pay them or not, okay? You'd be surprised with the people that you are not paying, who you are asking to do something for you. If you explain the emotional importance of the thing, they will go out of their way to make it really, really good for you, okay? Now, this is something that you have to learn because, see, ultimately, if you want to be a leader, you have to learn to lead, and delegating is the first step in that. It's a very important step because it extends your ability into the world, into the universe. Because you have, 10 fingers, right? 2 hands. But when you delegate, all of a sudden, it's not that you're just one person with 2 hands and 10 fingers. All of a sudden, you're 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, all of them acting in your interest, doing what's good for you, helping you out. See? So that's why it's important that delegating is a skill that you should master. And you master it like all skills, practice. Practice on the small scale. Practice with little things, you know, asking people, friends, you know, your girlfriend, whomever, to do little tasks for you. Consciously gauging their reaction, seeing what works and what doesn't. You're a young guy, right? You're a kid. You got decades ahead of you. Learn to do this now. You learn to do this now, you learn to fine-tune your approach. So later, when you have your own business, or you're working for a big corporation, or wheresoever you may happen to be, you will be able to quickly get other people on your side. You will be delegating things, tasks to them, and by delegating those tasks and giving them a piece of the emotional real estate of the tasks that you're delegating, they will feel a part of your team, and you will build yourself an army. This is how you build yourself an army. You make people useful to themselves and useful to you, and they will follow you.